I brought in Joanne Reid, who just published a great piece called American Gestapo. And with that setup, I yield the floor to you, Joy, in this wheel of hell. Beep, boop, bop, boop, beep, boop. Where do you want to start?
It's hard to know where to begin. I think about the fact that J.D. Vance once said that Donald Trump could be America's Hitler. Who knew that he meant that as a compliment, right? And that he was like, the second half of that sentence might have been, and I will be his Goering. They
Yep.
all are
Yep.
signing up, I think, pretty openly. And I actually don't think at this point that the people in the MAGA movement would even consider it an insult to call them fascists. I think they're just open about it now. I think they're very clear that they look at The Handmaid's Tale, which was the story of an American fascist regime, and they look at countries like Hungary and countries like Russia, and they see goals. They see goals. And what they're trying to do, and they're using this Project 2025, which was a fascist manifesto. And what they're doing is they're rapidly implementing through shock and awe American fascism unfiltered.
Yep.
And the pieces of American fascism, and you talked about capitalism and pure capitalism plus racism, please understand that the only time this country has really had pure, unadulterated capitalism really was during the enslavement era, when you had minimal cost of labor, maximum profit for a small number of people, and literally no middle class. That is capitalism. And so they're trying to push us as far back toward the founding status of the country as they can. And I think, and one thing I would point out, and I would love to get your comment on this, because Donald Trump did something the other day when he was at this alligator Alcatraz. And by the way, I lived in Florida for 14 years. I'm just telling you right now, the idea of putting a prison camp surrounded by the Everglades, which is both a sin against the environment, it is reminiscent of something they used to say in Florida, which is the term gator bait. Gator bait used to be when, during slavery, white enslavers who wanted to catch alligators would use Black infants, enslaved people's children, to put them in the Everglades to try to get bait alligators to come, because they knew they would try to eat them. And so gator bait is actually, and Ron DeSantis isn't an idiot. I'm sure he knows, because he keeps trying to repeat racist tropes from the past and come across like an old Southern racist sheriff. But when Trump was touring his frenemy, former enemy, Ron DeSantis's alligator Alcatraz with the puppy killer, Kristi Noem, Trump said something really interesting. He says, we're going to take care of our farmers. We're going to take care of our farmers because, they've had employees that have been picking, vegetables or whatever on their farms for decades. They know these people. We're going to put them in charge of those people. We're going to let them have their workers, but they are going to have owner responsibility. Owner responsibility. This is at the close of my Substack that I just posted. I was trying to get it done so I could be on time for your live. Owner responsibility means essentially what he's saying is we will have indentured servitude.
Yep.
We will get so the goal has always been to get us as close back to the founding status of the country as possible, when only wealthy landowners had full citizenship and the right to vote. Women had no rights. They were considered property. Blacks had no rights. They were considered chattel, slavery, property. And children obviously had no rights. You could make them work. They could work 12 hours in the fields. No one had rights except free, white, landed men. Even white men who didn't own land didn't have any rights and couldn't vote. So the goal has always been that. The reason they worship the founding is that status of pure capitalism at the founding, when you can have pure, unadulterated racism, xenophobia, ethno-nationalism, women treated as slaves and property. They're getting us back there, and they're getting us back there mad fast.
I appreciate you connecting the dots, and I'm so glad you're here today because we're in sync today, and I can now have a partner to share my righteous rage with, and my wife is like, all right, go talk to Joy. Because, folks, I've been trying to remind people, and this is the world's worst I told you so. This week has been the world's worst I told you so. I get no joy from this, Joy. I remember telling people, pay attention on election night. There is one industry whose stocks just skyrocketed. That industry, folks, was private prisons. Private prisons. This is why I've labeled this, the police state incorporated. The oligarchy meets white supremacy, right? The billionaires meets racism, white supremacy and greed, right? This $175 billion, which, by the way, we don't have money for USAID. 300,000 kids have been killed. We don't have money for Medicaid. We don't have money for SNAP. But don't worry, kids. There's no money for public schools, but there will be private prisons because this $175 billion to ICE increases ICE from 4,000, like no, 6,000. There's 6,000 ICE people to 10,000. All right. And the money is going to border security, concentration camps, and also detention centers. So who are you going to put in these centers? Oh, I don't know. If you're working so hard and you don't got money and you're broke, guess what? America incarcerates more people than any other country on earth. America has a population of 330 million. India and China have a population of a billion. We incarcerate more people than India and China. 80% of people who are incarcerated in prison right now are poor. So what's going to happen if you're hungry, you're poor, you don't have jobs, you're on drugs, you don't have healthcare? Some people are going to get desperate and they're going to get what? Picked up, and they're going to go to what? Prison. And guess what? You don't even have to be a criminal anymore. Oh no, you just have to look brown. You have to be like a Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Why give $6 million to Bukele of El Salvador to house 238 El Salvadorans without due process when we can just ship them to our private prisons and make money? In fact, forget the undocumented or the legal immigrants. Why not just pick up pro-Palestinian students? Why not just pick up, oh, I don't know, citizens? Because all these people that I've mentioned, folks, have been picked up and terrorized by ICE. ICE has deported at least 70 citizens, plus legal immigrants, plus undocumented immigrants without any criminal charges, right? And speaking about how this is connected to racism, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Joy, with gator bait and the type of dog whistles, which are not dog whistles. I used to say, Joy, about 8, 9 years ago, they want to hijack this country back to 1953. And the reason I chose 1953, very specifically, was it's pre-Brown versus Board of
Right.
Education. Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court case that finally said segregation was illegal. That, folks, has always been the focal point of the culture war. Not gay marriage, not abortion. It was always, always, always desegregation and
Yep.
public schools.
Yep.
In the last 4 years, Joy, I amended it. I said they want to take this country back to 1853. And
Yeah.
then every time I say it, people say, you're crazy, you're radical, you're a race baiter, this, that. Folks, I give you this past week. They want to take us back to the time when white Christian men were in charge and women, black people, people of color, and everyone else were at the bottom. And the workers work, the rich get richer, and people who think you and me are crazy, because I know the right wing's going to clip this up, they always do. Uh, how else do you explain this bill from hell in which they're literally going to kill their own base to make the rich people richer, but somehow found $175 billion for ICE?
Yeah. And the thing is, and people who get upset, and they will get upset at us, I mean, but we could both say puppies are cute and they'd clip it and say that we're evil. So we already know what they're doing, right? The reality is 1953 never worked for me either as a when America was great, because women had the right to vote in 1953. So white women did. So I'm like, I don't buy it, because they definitely don't want white women to have any rights either. So let's just be clear. The majority of DEI jobs and opportunities went to white women, just as the majority of affirmative action went to white women. They've been trying to chase them back into the kitchen and out of the workforce literally since after World War II, when white women broke out and started to realize they can make their own money. So I'm with you on 1853, because that's also obviously pre-Civil War. And the Civil
Yep.
War put in place the amendments they hate, which are the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. But the 13th is the one you have to really focus on. And this is the reason I tell people, whenever you hear all these stories, it is one story. You just have to focus, right? And get all of these crazy pieces and put them in one. The 13th Amendment has this little asterisk on it, which says that if you're incarcerated, you still can be enslaved. You can use incarcerated people as slave labor. So if you just tell me, right wingers who are clipping this, you tell me what it would look like, how it would make sense to you. We just in June had the biggest reduction in the workforce since the pandemic. So jobs are receding, not growing. We have an economy that's stalling, where prices are going up, up, up.
Yep.
AI and tech are taking away human jobs and giving them to robots. You're going to have this massive number of unemployed, particularly men. You're trying to rip women out of the workforce so that you don't have to worry about half your workforce because they're at home. In theory, you can just chase them back home. And then you have to figure out, we are a country that's losing our tourism economy. People don't want to come here. Our tourism economy is collapsing, particularly in states like
$12 billion.
Florida.
We've lost $12 billion as of this year.
As of this year, people don't want to come here because they're afraid to come here because they're getting rousted at the border. They're getting rousted at the airport. There have been foreign nationals, Canadians, people from Poland who've been held for 2 weeks. People don't want to come here. So we're losing that. So what will be the industry of the United States? You nailed it when you said Bukele, the worst Palestinian on earth. The one Palestinian other than Khaled that I don't really deeply respect, because I'm like, come on, DJ Khaled, you do more than you're doing. Bukele's industry now is incarceration. That is his country's industry. Florida, having lost its tourism industry because they're literally suing their own cruise lines, suing Disney, chasing people away. They made it clear they do not want non-white visitors in Florida. They just don't want non-white people in Florida, period. But Florida has now opened its doors to become the new El Salvador. What
Yep.
he said is they're going to open a second one. They've got one in the Everglades. They're going to use another defunct army base, and they're essentially going to now take the same kind of checks that Bukele is taking in El Salvador to create migrant camps in Florida. I just was in Louisiana with the State of the People Power Tour. We toured a Louisiana jail. This isn't even a prison, but a jail, where they are holding people who are awaiting trial, in some cases for up to 5 years. You know
Mm.
what you can do with somebody who's in jail but hasn't been tried? So again, they're just like a migrant that's been detained. They are an unadjudicated, not yet a legal criminal like Trump is. They can make them work. They go put them in low-income jobs, and then 90% of the money that they quote-unquote earn goes to the state. So Louisiana is in the business. That's why whenever people get detained in New York off of a college campus, they ship them to Louisiana, because Louisiana is already in the incarceration business. And they've actually lowered the floor to be able to incarcerate children in Louisiana. That Florida alligator Alcatraz also has a children's wing. So what they're planning to do is to turn the United States from a first world information economy where we make money by inventing things like chips, microchips and wind energy and new energy and doing all, to going back to a coal mining, prison farm labor,
Pain gang.
carceral state. That is the goal, to turn us back to the 19th century.
And folks, if you don't believe us, just follow the money. Just
Yeah.
follow the money. Listen to them literally and figuratively. Donald Trump, during the passage of the billionaire bill, visited Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz, which is a concentration camp. And there, what he said was, I'm open to stripping U.S. citizens of their citizenship, the ones that he doesn't like. And he's also said previously that he's open to deporting U.S. citizens, well, not deporting them, but essentially sending them to foreign prisons, right? Oh, the ones that we don't like, we're just going to send them to Bikili and now Sudan, right? So this is a fascist state in which the rich will get richer off of your misery. The poor will get poorer, and then the poor will be made into free indentured servants and laborers. The California fires, who fought those fires, right? A lot of incarcerated individuals were paid pennies, right? So we'll destroy the infrastructure. Who needs a fire department, and who needs people to create roads, and who needs teachers? And we'll do all this manual labor, especially the stuff that's really like horrible that white people don't want to do. We'll just use the brown and blacks and the indentured servants, and we'll do it for free, and it'll be cost-free labor, and we'll make more money. And don't you worry about it. We'll privatize everything. Your kid doesn't need to go to school because they've also reduced the age of the workforce in these red states, right? So now you could be a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 6-year-old and go work. And guess what? As these kids are working, injuries, because these kids should be in school and not working. And now you had Republicans saying, well, you got to pick yourself up from your bootstraps. And the Republicans who are saying this, folks, are rich people with 6 to 7 figure salaries openly saying it, right? So it goes across. I mean, folks, it's black and brown people, but it goes across. It's about class, right? And as we're seeing this play out in real time, right? And I have to talk to you about this because it's just, it pissed me off. Over the weekend, enjoy, you had a show on MSNBC. You know, the weekend is prime real estate, especially Sunday. That's when the politicians come out, right? They face the nation, meet the nation, right? Democratic leadership in New York. I'm talking about Gillibrand, Jeffries, and others. Instead of telling the American public what we just said, that this is in the bill, this is in the pipeline, Medicaid cuts, rural hospital cuts, $175 billion to ICE to create a police state. Joy, can you tell people what they spent all their privileged
Mhm.
time on?
Yeah, and by the way, the Zoran Mamdani, who is now officially the Democratic nominee to be the mayor of New York, it's now official. Donald Trump threatened to arrest him, and I want you all to note all of the politicians who have been arrested or brutalized by ICE and federal agents. It's all been around them trying to stand in the way of ICE raids
There you go.
or trying to inspect private prisons of the kind that Waj is talking about. You try to inspect a private prison in New Jersey, you get indicted for supposedly assaulting officers. You try to
Mayor
ask the
Baraka.
mayor, right? Because Baraka was arrested, but he was let go. But the Congresswoman Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, is actually being indicted because she
Mm.
tried to attempt to stop ICE agents from shoving a much older congresswoman, a senior congresswoman who was standing there. Then you go to California, and when you have the senior senator try to just ask a question about ICE incarcerations and the military being on the ground, he gets rousted, thrown on the ground, and treated. And it's all around. They're all very focused on that. So Mamdani has
Oh,
said,
wait. And Brad Lander
Brad
gets
Lander,
detained. New York
yes,
City comptroller, the Wisconsin judge, another white woman. They've indicted her. Guns pointed at Maxine Waters.
yeah,
Nadler's aide tackled. Sorry that I brought the receipts, but folks, if they're doing this to senators and mayors. And as Joy said, thank you for bringing it up. I wanted to bring that up at Alcatraz concentration camp. First of all, he called Mamdani a communist. I wanted any press member to say, "Can you define communist?"
yeah,
It would make for a beautiful clip. And then
yeah.
secondly, he dusted off the birther conspiracy, brought it out against Mamdani and said, some people have said he's here illegally. I got to look into that. And then they said, if Mamdani doesn't allow ICE to do its job, and if he says he's going to protect immigrants, I'm going to arrest him.
Correct.
Continue. Joy,
He
please.
said he threatened to arrest Mamdani, in addition to saying, "Don't worry, we'll be able to use alligator alley prisoners for forced labor." But this is that. But yes, he threatened to arrest and deport Mamdani. So now put that in your mind. He's now facing the threat from the president of the United States to denaturalize him. He was a naturalized citizen from Uganda. He was naturalized at 7 years old. He is an American. He's been an American longer than Elon Musk has. But also Trump is threatening to deport him too and denaturalize him also. But the response of Democrats to these mortal threats to Mamdani, who has received more death threats, hate calls, he's been just inundated with death threats and hate. And the response of elected Democrats has been, well, they're reluctant to endorse him because he has not sufficiently proven to them that he would be solicitous enough, not of New Yorkers, not of people in New York City, but of a foreign country. So he has not proved sufficiently to Democratic lawmakers that he is loyal enough and solicitous enough to a foreign country, Israel, which to me makes no sense. Hakeem Jeffries, who right now is doing the Lord's work speaking against the bill on the floor of the House, has still not endorsed Mamdani.
Nope.
Kirsten Gillibrand, and I'm not a lawyer, but she might have defamed that dude because she went on and effectively called him a terrorist or pro-terrorist. She then had to take back what she said on a radio interview. This woman literally came out harder against Mamdani than she ever has against Trump.
Yep.
And the Democratic New York elected establishment is still refusing to endorse him, not because they oppose his ideas. They haven't even mentioned his ideas about city-owned grocery stores, about making rent cheaper. Even Tucker Carlson is like, he's the only one talking about New York issues. Even Tucker said that. And yet the Democratic establishment has not even addressed that. All they've said is he is not, they are not confident that he is going to be solicitous enough of a foreign government. That to me is insane because that's not the job of the mayor of New York City. The job of the mayor of New York City is to take care of New Yorkers. And no one is asking him about that. I'm frustrated. I watched a segment, I don't know if you saw it on CNN, where Harry Enton, their data guy,
Yeah.
was talking about how overwhelmingly Democrats now side with Palestinians. It's like
Yep.
47, to 30 or something like that. But then young Americans, it's like 57% side with
Completely
Pal-
lopsided. It's remarkable.
and the host of the segment was like, really reluctant to talk about that. Like, she really was like, yeah, but he's really not answered questions about whether or not he's against anti-Semitism. Yes, he has. He gave very eloquent responses. On Stephen Colbert, he went into a lengthy explanation of how he would fight anti-Semitism and how he's been in synagogues and talked to people one-on-one. Yes, he has. What is it they want him to do? They want him to denounce the protesters who are pro-Palestinian. And
There you go.
until he does that denunciation and does the dance, he cannot get the support of people like Hakeem Jeffries and Kirsten Gillibrand. Balderdash. That is crazy to me because this is not even about New York at this point. It's about a foreign government, and I don't get it.
And, to connect the dots, and I think what really just tipped me over, and I said, you know what, the Democratic establishment, I'm not talking about the Democratic Party. I'm like, burn this to the ground, cull it. And I'm not saying both sides are the same. Obviously, you see the Republican billionaire bill, but I'm talking about the Democratic establishment, the leadership. I'm done with them after I saw what happened on the weekend because they use Israel as a litmus test to smear Mamdani. And the reason why Mamdani won, right, Joy, is because first his message. What's his message? I think New York City should be affordable for
Yes.
everyone. The same message that Bernie has, AOC has, right? He goes against the establishment. Over the weekend, he criticized billionaires, right? He said, I don't think there should be billionaires, but I'll work with them.
Yeah.
Also, he criticized capitalism and says, you call it democracy or democratic socialism. I'm going to quote him MLK, that America should be fair and affordable for all. And what we're seeing since the past 10 years, the reason why Donald Trump, in part one, in addition to the racism and the disinformation, is he says, I'm an outsider. I'm going to come and wreck the institutions. A lot of people who voted for Donald Trump also voted for Bernie Sanders. A lot of people who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 also voted for AOC. A lot of people who voted for Donald Trump also voted for Mamdani. The other reason why he won is what we've seen with Mamdani and AOC is authenticity and passion beats age and experience. When he was cornered and they said, throw Palestinians under the bus, throw immigrants under the bus, he said no. He stayed on business. He goes, agree with me or disagree with me, I'm going to make a principled stand. And you know what people said? I respect that. You're willing to fight. You seem honest. You seem sincere, right? And as this was happening, and the reason why it all came together for me, it has for a while, is for the past week, Democrats have asked Mamdani to condemn a chant he has never
Never
said.
said.
And the same time that this has happened, Bob Dylan, a rap group I've never heard of, was at Glastonbury. And they led the chants death to IDF and free Palestine, right? We have talked more. BBC spent more time on this story than the other story that came out from Haaretz. I'm sure you've seen the story in which Haaretz reported the IDF was commanded to shoot at unarmed Palestinians in Gaza who were gathering to get food aid. They had killed now 560 people. A report just came out last night that they killed more people, injured more people last night, folks. And the question that I have, Joy, is why are the unconditional supporters of Israel, like Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer, like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, not asked, why do you support this?
Yeah.
Why do you support the genocidal language of Israeli leaders? And how come that is not worth more condemnation than what Bob, a villain, said, or some chants, or what Zoran Mamdani has said about Palestinians?
Right. I mean, I've never heard of Bob Dylan. I'm being honest with you. I've heard of Bob Dylan, but I started seeing this story all over my timeline, and I'm like, who even is that? Like, why is that relevant to anything? 55,000. We just had on the Joy Reid show a gentleman. We just taped an interview, and it's going to run next week from a gentleman from a lady from Doctors Without Borders Canada. She's the
Right.
director of Doctors Without Borders Canada. 55,000 people in Gaza have been killed. And the doctors and nurses who are risking their lives because doctors are getting killed by IDF snipers. Doctors, they're seeing bones crushed, beheaded children, children with shrapnel injuries, children who have a headshot, children who have been killed by a sniper headshot. They're a baby, they're a child. What IDF is doing, and they're not allowing journalists in. And this is not me saying it's a war crime. It's the International Criminal Court has already adjudicated that Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal. Yet he's perfectly fine to come to the White House, apparently. They have issued arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu and his defense minister. This is happening in real time. And yet, no one has asked the supporters of Israel, do you condemn Bibi Netanyahu and his cabinet members who have said incredibly, terrifyingly genocidal things about Palestinians. When Bibi Netanyahu talks about the Amalekites in the Bible are the people that God commanded Abraham to annihilate, to slaughter en masse, kill their children, kill their oxen, kill their wives. He said that, and it's clearly what he meant. No one says, do you condemn Bibi Netanyahu? He's a war criminal. But when it comes to Palestinians, you must condemn everything any Palestinian protester has ever said. And the last thing I will add before I throw it back to you, Watch, is I would challenge anyone on this chant, globalize the intifada. If you can't tell me what the intifada is, I refuse to give in to your demand to condemn it. Do you know what the intifada even is? There have been two of them. One was in the 80s, one was in 2004. But when I looked up and tried to find a definition of it online, the organizations that are very pro-Israel leave out something really important. The first intifada
Mm.
happened because of land theft. Palestinian farmers were having a settler get off a plane from New Jersey, roll up to their farm, put a gun to their head, and say, 2,000 years ago, people of my religion lived here, get out. And taking their farms, taking their land, driving them off at gunpoint, beating them, harming them, while the IDF just looked the other way or helped them. The Intifada was caused by massive land expropriation. Palestinians were having their land seized, and they had an uprising as a result. They did everything from refusing to pay taxes, to marching, to throwing rocks, yes, at the IDF soldiers, but they had rocks. The other side had machine guns and
Yeah.
Kalashnikovs. So it's like the idea of this uprising was like as if it was for no reason, because Palestinians are just animals. They're just naturally anti-Semitic animals. First of all, they are also Semitic people, and they live there. And some dude from New Jersey or Russia or Warsaw shows up and says, "This is my land." Yeah, they had an uprising. That isn't shocking to me, as maybe it's because I'm a third world person. I don't understand why that to me is not shocking. So when people talk about intifada and they don't even know what it's for, the second intifada was because with Bibi Netanyahu in the prime ministership, they opened the door to allow, there's supposed to be a detente at the place where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is and the place where the Temple Mount is. They sit on the same property. And what Jerusalem authorities usually do is they try to make sure that Jewish people and Muslims have equal access to that property. And they're not supposed to put them together so that they'll fight. They just opened the door and said, y'all, Jewish people go in there while the people are praying at Al-Aqsa Mosque. And militant extremists rushed in there and
Yep.
started trouble. And that was the second intifada. So it's not like Palestinians are somehow, it's the way that the Americans, Europeans used to talk about the Native Americans. They used to make it sound like the Nez Perce and the Sioux and the Cherokee were just animals. They're just animals. They just have, they're immoral. They have no God in them. That's why they just rise up against us and hurt us. No, you were taking their land. That's why. That's
It's
why they were mad at you. Like, what?
and it was Ariel Chiron
Very
specifically,
true.
yeah, Ariel Chiron, who deliberately made that provocation, which then sparked the Second Intifada. And Ariel Chiron himself, a war criminal, who was castigated by his own parliament for his contribution to war crimes in Lebanon
Stop it,
when
Shatila. Yeah.
Israel invaded Lebanon, right? And the reason why this is all connected, and we're bringing this up, and I'm so glad, Joy, because you go into depth, and I just want to give you a compliment right before we connect the dots. Is you were on CNN and you were talking about, Trump's unilateral and I would say illegal strike in Iran, where again he got dog walked by Israel, and decided to, because based on vibes and based on the coverage, he decided, the America First president, to potentially lead America into World War III on behalf of Israel, which has been Netanyahu's wet dream for, I don't know, my entire life, 3 decades. He's always said Iran is close to nuclear weapon. America, come join us, come join us, come join us. And you actually gave context, which rarely happens. And you brought up the receipts about, well, people just don't wake up all of a sudden and become radical. People just don't wake up all of a sudden and become revolutionary. People just don't wake up, young white people on Glastonbury, and chant death to the IDF. People in Iran just don't wake up in the 70s and say, yes, death to America. Why did they say that? Because you brought the receipts that the United States led a coup against Iran's democratically elected leader, Mossadegh, and Mossadegh's crime people. Mossadegh's crime was he wanted to nationalize Iran's oil, its greatest resource to help people. And then what happened? The United States and British forces combined did something called Operation Ajax, did a CIA-led overthrow and coup of Mossadegh, and they implemented the Shah. The Shah, much like Donald Trump, this profligate, horny, corrupt villain who created his own Gestapo,
Yeah.
his own ICE in the form of SAVAK, and terrorized the Iranian people to the point where finally the Iranian people got together, all these different forces, secular forces, young people, religious people, they united around, the religious clergy, and then you had the Islamic Revolution. So it's not like the Iranian people just got up one day and said, you know what? Death to America. It's not just one day like all these young people who have been radicalized in real time just got up and said death to the IDF, whether you agree with the chant or not. Why are people saying that? I haven't said it. You haven't said it. Because the genocide has been streamed in real time, folks. They've been radicalized in real time. That's why it's a generational shift. And that poll that Harry Enton on CNN showed is a reflection of also the Gallup poll. Then your life and my life, we never saw this. In a year and a half,
Ever.
a majority of Americans are now against Israel. The way this all connected. In 2024, the DNC said, you know what? F you, Democrats. F you, progressives. F you, Palestinians. We're going to rather have Adam Kinzinger, who's pro war on Iran, by the way, and Liz Cheney and Leon Panetta. We're not going to have a Palestinian speaker. We're not going to have a transgender because we don't want to appear woke. And the YouGov poll came out and said the number one reason, not the only reason, why so many Democrats stayed at home, which is why Donald Trump won, is the war on Gaza. You fast forward, Joy, several months, and this weekend, the combination of, like I said, folks, you want a through line? White supremacy and greed, right? Racism and greed. The oligarchy and racists in power, white supremacy. The Democratic establishment refuses to get rid of they refuse to stop sucking at the teat of corporate donors, of APAC, of billionaires, of the oligarchy. And folks, they decided to pour millions of dollars to support Cuomo. They decided to smear Mamdani, and they're still smearing Mamdani right now for APAC and corporate donors. They decided to bring out Bill Clinton and friggin' Clyburn and Lawrence Summers out to support Cuomo, right? It's all connected. And instead of talking about how this bill will support the oligarchy and advance the white supremacist project, they're still spending time going against Mamdani. I just wanted to connect the dots. If I'm wrong, Joy, tell me where I'm wrong.
You are not wrong. And the thing that's so infuriating about it is they know who Andrew Cuomo is and why he was run out of power. The women who made accusations, credible accusations against Andrew Cuomo, I cannot imagine are feeling good about their party if they're Democrats today. Because the Democrats have literally said we'd rather have a guy who is more like Trump in his personal behavior than not, than have this other guy because he says he's a Democratic socialist. You all literally are in a coalition with Bernie Sanders, who's also a Democratic socialist. You don't have a problem putting Bernie Sanders on committees. He's exactly what Mamdani is. So if you don't have a problem, you let Bernie Sanders. This was a big issue in 2016. They allowed Bernie Sanders, who is also a Democratic socialist, to run for the Democratic nomination for president of the United States. They didn't do it very happily. They didn't really want to do it, but they let him. So the reality is you can't say that your opposition to Mamdani is that he's a Democratic socialist because you literally have Democratic socialists in your coalition in order to maintain your numbers in the Senate. So that does not wash. Number two, most of the Democrats from New York are also co-endorsed by the Working Families Party. So you could say very easily that AOC is a Working Families Party candidate, then that she's a Democratic Party candidate. So you all already accept that people who run for office in New York City and in New York State are not fully, purely Democrats. So you can't say that's the reason. So what's the reason? Because you have not condemned his policies on trying to make New York cheaper. You've not even talked about them. You're only talking about whether or not he's solicitous enough of a foreign government. And my people come from way back in the day from Ghana. My father's people from Congo. I don't think anyone has ever asked me if I unquestionably support, the policies of Ghana and there's no foreign nation to which you should be so loyal that you must unquestionably. Most of the people I know that are the most critical of Bibi Netanyahu are Jewish too.
Yep.
And this is one of the things that I feel it has to be said, and I think the Democratic Party needs to get this. Israel is not a people; it's a country. Israel is not the Israel of the Bible any more than Iran is the Mesopotamia that, by the way, Abraham came from. If we're going to start saying that these countries are what they were in the Bible, like most Christian nationalists like Ted Cruz want to do, then we cannot criticize Ethiopia because that's where King Solomon was from. So we must now take the knee to whatever the government of Ethiopia does. Like, that doesn't make sense, does it? And if I said that, you'd think I was insane. But now what we're saying is that American politicians, in the minds of Christian nationalists and people, I guess, who get money from APEC or whatever, I have no idea why, they're saying that unless you are perfectly solicitous to this foreign government, you can't be a Democrat? I don't understand. You can't be an American politician? I don't get it.
And they would rather burn Zoran Mamdani and the party down for the sake of the billionaires in APAC than endorse him, folks. And that's why it's the root of the same disease. It's greed and white supremacy. And, some people have asked us, well, how do you fight back? And it's all connected because I think, look, folks, Donald Trump is underwater. He has approval rating of 38%. It's the lowest of any president since the first Donald Trump administration at this point in history. And as this bill passes, as shit hits the fan, because it takes a cumulative effect, and the shit is going to hit the fan, you're going to watch those numbers dive. Unfortunately, the way this is all connected, Joy, in my opinion, is if you look at the Democratic ratings, it's lower. It's at
Yes.
29%, the lowest since 1994. Why? Because they are not having an articulate message, a message of fighting back. They are not fighting back against the oligarchy because they take money from the oligarchy. They still support Israel, even though their base is, why are we funding a genocide, right? They have thrown the woke under the bus. Elisa Slotnick, the centrist Democrat senator from Michigan, who they chose to respond to Donald Trump, her war plan that was released by Politico is that we need to declare a war on the weak and the woke. And so they're repeating right-wing talking points and throwing immigrants under the bus, undocumented immigrants under the bus, who are being literally, for those 2,000 people who have joined us, we spent the first half of this conversation talking about how Donald Trump has unleashed the Gestapo against immigrants, undocumented immigrants, pro-Palestinian students. But like we said, fascists come from everyone, folks. Fascists come for everyone. You don't believe me? Listen to Donald Trump. Now he's open to stripping citizenship of citizens, right? So instead of defending the undocumented, in defending transgender folks, just the obscene capitulation by UPenn a couple of days ago, where they stripped the transgender swimmer of her recognition, right? With Zoran and a few others who are gaining traction, he responded to Donald Trump and said, no, I'm going to defend my community. We're going to fight back. I'm for the undocumented. I'll go march in the pride, right? I am a Muslim. I do eat with my hands. I am going to link up with Brad Lander, who's Jewish. I am going to link up and get cross endorsements with Black Americans, right? This is a multiracial movement that is against the oligarchy. That's the 99% versus the 1%, right? And we're against billionaires. And why can't life be affordable for everyone? And instead of embracing that message, which is such an easy message, they
Yes.
still can't do it. And the reason why I think they can't do it, Joy, is because they're sucking at the teat of the oligarchs. They're not built for this fight. They're not made for this moment. Yes, Jeffries is performing right now. I hope he does well. I don't have faith in him, Joy. I think Jeffries is too, if you will, he's too tainted or trained by the Pelosi style of politics. And I was talking to Mike Madrid right before you came on. That conversation will be up in a few hours, folks. But this reminds us of 2012, when the Republican Party is like, Eric Cantor is your leader. Kevin Johnson is your leader. And the Republican Party is like, we're going to have a Tea Party revolution.
Yeah.
With what we're facing, and I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to yield the floor to you. And if you can stay for 5 more minutes, I'll let
Sure.
you go. I know this. I say all this, folks. And the reason why I have this fire in my belly is because a lot of the stuff that I've been saying, unfortunately, has been proven right. It's the world's worst. I told you so. I believe the Trump regime has won. I believe the coup was successful. I believe we're dealing with a fascist regime. If you do not believe me, just look at the past week. If you don't connect the dots, when you have ICE terrorizing a city, when they're given an infusion of $175 billion and they have now 10,000 soldiers, and ICE has a bigger budget than many countries' militaries, and Donald Trump is unleashing ICE along with the military and National Guard, what will he do to other Americans? And as Donald Trump and Republicans and their favorability rating goes down, Joy, I am afraid, and I want your thoughts on this, that he is going to say, folks, I'm the commander in chief. I have to protect you. We're getting attacked by Antifa, the Muslims, the invasion, El Salvadorans. I have to declare martial law and I have to punt. I have to punt the elections, but don't worry, I'll bring back elections when they're safe. I believe this is what we're dealing with, and yet we have a flaccid, pathetic non response from the Democratic establishment. I said a lot. I yield the floor to you.
Well, I've been saying, whenever Democrats say to me, this is the reason we have to coalesce for 2026. I always add to the end of to the end of that sentence, yeah, assuming we actually have free and fair elections. I think it's insane, honestly, to just assume we're going to have normal elections next year. I don't assume that because these Republicans, let me give you an example. 16 House Republicans, okay, wrote down and signed their names and signatures saying that this big billionaire bailout bullshit bill is going to
That's
hurt their
exactly how
own.
you should call it.
Yeah, it is going to hurt their own constituents. They said it. They wrote it down. They said this bill is an abomination. It's going to hurt our people. And then all but one of them voted for it anyway. Voted for it anyway. The only one who didn't vote for it, it's not even as if he was courageous enough to vote no. He just didn't vote at all. So what we you had Lisa Murkowski, who admitted that this bill is going to gut the very heavily. It's one of the top 5 states for the number of Medicaid recipients is Alaska. Louisiana's number 1. West Virginia is in there as well, but Alaska is way up there. She admitted this was going to gut her people, tried to get a fix for them, didn't get it, and still voted for it.
Yep.
So what you're seeing is Republicans, what that tells me is that they're not actually worried about getting reelected. If they feared being reelected, they would not vote for this bill because they know it's going to devastate their states. Mainly rural red states are going to get devastated. New York will try to take care of its poor. Maryland, California, blue states, Vermont will try to take care of their poor. They won't let their poor die the way that they will in red states. Louisiana, Mississippi, they're going to get devastated, red states. To me, the fact that Republicans are still voting for the bill tells me that they're not actually worried about being reelected. The way Trump is behaving, he's not acting like somebody who worries that his party will lose power, or that even if somehow we had normal elections and Democrats took control of either house of this House or the Senate, he's not acting like somebody who's worried about the consequences of that. This is somebody who is behaving as an autocrat because they don't anymore believe. He said it during the election, I don't need your votes anymore. And he doesn't. I don't think Trump intends to leave office. I'm very clear about that. I think he intends to stay in office like Putin till he dies, like Bukele has done, blown past their term limits. Bukele should be out already. He's still there. I think he's going to try to pull an Orban, pull all of these to Xi Jinping, all of them. He's going to do that because he's making so much money now. The grift is so good. He's not going to leave and get let this money go. And I think that Republicans are presuming that they're going to put enough restrictions in place that they can't be voted out. So I think it's going to take an extraordinary movement to get rid of them. And this is why I think it is so obvious to me why Mamdani won. Because what happens is when you have pure fascism, typically you get a version of socialism in response.
Yeah.
Because people get so frustrated with the tepid response of what you're seeing from the Democratic Party, which is treating this as politics, as just outre, bad politics, but politics nonetheless. This isn't politics, Democrats. This is fascism.
Yep.
And you don't fight fascism with orderly politics and rules-based politics. You have to fight fascism with something equally extreme. Meaning, you say to people who are saying, we can buy a whole block and raise the whole block's rents to the point where you're paying $3,000 for a studio apartment and there's nothing you can do about it. You don't fight that by saying, let's get that $3,000 down to $2,500. That doesn't help anyone. You fight it by saying, we're going to go for free rent. And then you go straight in the middle. You go hard. And the fact that he's saying, I'm literally going to be like free buses. Come for me, dog. That to me is the kind of passion people need.
Yep.
They want to hear an extreme solution to their extreme pain. And even if he doesn't get everything he said, even if the buses aren't free, if he can get that bus down to what it was when I was there, it was like 75 cents. If he drives it down by the force of his extreme ask, you have to ask big in order to get something. He's not being tepid. And so I think that's why, to your point, like Trump, he's not tepid. He's saying, I'm going to do this big, major thing. I'm not going to nibble away at the fascism. I'm going to fight it. He said he's going to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if Bibi Netanyahu comes to New York. He's going hard. So I think Democrats don't see it because they don't want to see it, but I think
Yeah.
they're going to be unpleasant. You're not going to win by, I've heard people talking about running Bill Ackman against him. Are you crazy? You
Please
want
do.
that?
Please do. Please run Bill Ackman against him. I agree with you. You got to go hard in the paint. And look, Republicans promise, look at what Donald Trump promised, all this bullshit. Example, as soon as I'm elected, there'll be peace in Ukraine, in Russia. As soon as I'm elected, don't worry, Gaza will be solved. As soon as I'm
Day one.
elected, the price of eggs will go down, right? But with Mamdani, he's actually like, all right, let's go hard in the paint. Free buses. F you
Yes.
billionaires. I'll arrest you, Netanyahu. And even if he doesn't get it done, the fact that he's even thinking, imagining this big, it gives people hope, right? Medicare for all. Why not? Why can't we do it? Like everyone's gonna have affordable housing. Why not? Let's try, right? And the unwillingness for the Democratic establishment to even dream or say it reveals to me they're not made for this. They're not built for this. I believe there is an internal revolution coming within the Democratic Party. No one's talking about it. There's a vacancy for leadership. I think the Mamdanis, the AOCs, anyone who's willing to fight fascists, at least show me the passion. At least show me the rhetoric. The example I've always given is I love sports. Even if my team loses, Joy, if
Yes.
they fight until the end, damn it, you roll with that team. If
Yes.
they're timid and weak, you're like, F this. Give me a fighter. And folks, Lev, I see you there. Lev, I'm going to add you in a minute after I let Joy go if you're still here. Joy, thank you so much. It made me feel much better because I needed some friends to rant with. Gus, sometimes you live in your own bubble and you think,
Yes.
am I the only one that's crazy? Is anyone else seeing it? Does anyone else see how this is all connected? And so thank you so much for coming on a July 3rd. I hope you have a great, great July 4th. Before you leave, shamelessly promote yourself. How can people support you? How can people find you? How can people read you?
Absolutely. And by the way, one of my guests I really really want to have on is Maurice, the head of the Working Families Party, because I'm telling you, watch, I got one foot out that Democratic Party door, and I'm looking at that Working Families Party like, hey, friend,
You're not the
I
only
might have
one.
a new
You're not
boo
the only one. You're
because
not
I'm
the only
over
one.
it. um, so you can find me at notjustjoyanreed.com, which is my Substack, which we call Joy's House, where I do my writing, and I really am enjoying it because it's a chance to, write my things, and I'm a writer primarily. But I also have this brand new fabulous thing called the Joy Reid Show. I want to really thank everyone who supported. We hit 2 million streams in 3 weeks, which is
Wow.
crazy. We got our
Wow.
award for getting to 100,000 subscribers, but by the time we got the award, we had 200,000 subscribers. So we
Wonderful.
are growing fast and furious over there. It's Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m., but we also go live when needed, when there's breaking news. So I just thank you all for supporting me. And I thank you, Watch, my friend. Don't ever think that you're crazy because I'm over here screaming with you. We just aren't hearing each other because we just need to get on the phone.
And for all the MAGA that's watching this, we hope we pissed off all the right people. Uh, the fireworks came early thanks to Joy and Reed. Joy, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much. For those who are watching, stick around. I know Lev's here. I'm going to add Lev. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Joy. Take care. Hold on,
Take
folks. I
care.
gotta I gotta do this on my phone. I hope you all can hear me and see me. Lev, I hope you saw the invite. All right, Lev. Folks, thank you all. There's 2,100 people. For those who joined us a bit late, I'm going to have this entire conversation up in an hour or so. So I strongly recommend we connected the dots. We talked about how it's greed, how it's racism, how it's the oligarchy, how it's white supremacy, how Donald Trump is a fascist, how this week proves that he's a fascist, how this billionaire bill is going to be disastrous. In addition to killing so many people, taking people off of Medicaid, it's also giving $175 billion to ICE. What do you think he's going to do with ICE, folks? Just think about it. There's also Alligator, Alcatraz concentration camp. He's open to stripping U.S. citizens of their citizenship. He's open to deporting U.S. citizen criminals to El Salvador. Folks, the private prison industry is smiling and giggling. The billionaires are giggling, and here we are. And Lev joined us. Lev Parnas has his own Substack. Please subscribe to Lev Parnas. Also, his son Aaron Parnas is doing fantastic work. Lev was a fixer for Donald Trump. Lev knows all the worst people. He knows Putin. He knows Trump. He knows Netanyahu. And Lev got spurned by Trump. And since he got spurned by Trump, he's come around, if you don't mind me saying, Lev, to the side of moral clarity
Yes,
and
yes,
ethics.
yes.
And he
Reality.
knows
That's
these
real.
people. He knows how they operate, and he knows the end game. Lev, I said I was up at 4:30. I said the House Republicans. This is all theater. They're going to vote for this bill. They have voted for this bill. It's passed. It's going to be disastrous. Your take about what we're going to see in America in the next 6 months?
Oh, poof, wow. First of all, thanks for having me. I mean, you enjoy great show. I mean, you guys hit all the points, all the dots. That's why you saw me hitting the 100% side. I mean, you guys, you were, I couldn't say it better. I mean, let me just put it to you this way: something's happening behind the scenes. Like one of the things that Joy and you guys mentioned about Putin and everything that the media is not talking about, that I want to share with our subscribers right now. Today, Trump and Putin had a call. They just finished literally a half hour ago, 45 minutes ago. And I have some stuff that I would like to share that went on in that call. First of all, yesterday, something also important happened. Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania voted against. One of the reasons he voted against this bill it wasn't so much with the bill also, but had to do with what Trump did with Ukraine a couple of days ago by stopping aid, sending military aid over to Ukraine. He not only stopped it, he actually pulled back. The missiles were already in Poland, ready to be deployed. He pulled them back. So Fitzpatrick wrote a letter to Trump, voted against him, and disappeared. Today on the call, Vladimir Putin started off the call by congratulating Trump on the big, beautiful bill. Think about it. Vladimir Putin congratulated Donald Trump on his big, beautiful bill, congratulated him with Independence Day, and said something very, very devious that he said that Russia played no small role in the formation of the American statehood. Just think
Wow.
about that just think about that statement he said there. So there was a lot more on this call that I'm waiting for some of my sources to get back to me to dissect. But basically, this call, on the call, they also spoke about Iran. One of the things we spoke about earlier, Putin is holding back the reins on Iran because this is not Trump. Iran would never listen to Trump. They don't care about Trump. They don't care about his attacks that he did. This would be full if Putin was not involved, and if Trump would not be giving him Ukraine on a silver platter for these wins that he needs, because he needs it for Bibi, for Netanyahu. And that's why I wrote in my Substack the axis of punity between Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump.
Yeah.
Because if all three of them would not be leaders, they would all be in prison. Just think about it. All three of them. One is already a convicted felon, Donald Trump. Putin is a wanted war criminal, and so is Bibi. So if they would not be in power, they will all be in prison somewhere in their countries. And Trump just stopped Bibi's trial by literally going on a war page, attacking the judge, and everything like that.
And for those who don't know, real quick, what Lev's talking about is Benjamin Netanyahu, much like Donald Trump, is corrupt as F, as the kids say. And if he wasn't right now in power, and if there wasn't a war, right, to justify his rule, he would most likely step down, and then he would be, he's already indicted, he would be convicted of corruption charges, and he would be in jail. So he needs the war. And Donald Trump, instead of being the American first president and calling Netanyahu and saying, stop genociding and killing people in Palestinians, he said, Israel, you better drop these charges against Netanyahu. And if you don't drop these charges against Netanyahu, I'm going to stop military aid. So he's not going to stop military aid to be America first and, send bombs for war. He said, threatening Israel and Israeli judges, that if you don't drop these charges against my buddy, Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, has much influence over my base, white Christian nationalists, I'm going to stop sending you U.S. aid and weapons. But continue, Lev. I just wanted to connect the dots for people who don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it exactly. That's exactly. And right now, and that's the bigger play that's happening, because what you've seen play out last week, I mean, just think about it. In a matter of a week, we've seen from going from almost World War III to theatrics to then all of a a sudden peace deals to all of a sudden, Iran is now getting rid of our inspectors. Talking about today, they stopped all inspections. Trump is giving them just think about how dangerous this is, and we speak about I speak about this all the time is by Trump trying to rewrite history. By him trying to say that he wiped out all of their nuclear weapons, he's
Lie.
basically giving them a free. He's giving them a free pass because right now, under the pretenses, nobody's going to go check. Trump's not going to send in any allow anybody to go down because he needs for everybody to believe that he wiped them out. So now Iran has a free pass of basically going developing nuclear weapons, and not only the ones that they already took away that he didn't hit, that he's trying to pretend. So it's becoming even a more dangerous situation because of the way he's trying to rewrite history just to get that win. Because it's all about that gratification, that win to feed his narcissistical. And I know him better than most. Trust me. It's even if it's that one headline. If you notice it, like even when he was at a press conference, I think in Alligator Alcatraz, which is, I mean, that's something we could talk about also because it's in my back town here in Florida. And Ron DeSantis, I'm the one that introduced. I don't know if you know, I
Oh,
introduced Ron DeSantis. I hate to take credit for it, but truth is the truth. I introduced him and Trump. If it wasn't for me, DeSantis would never be governor of Florida. I mean, it was that fateful day when he came to me at the Trump International in Washington, D.C. I'll never forget begging me to introduce him because he was way behind in the polls. And basically, I sold my soul to them by cutting a deal with them for cannabis. For him to be pro-cannabis, I said, I'll introduce you to Donald Trump. So, I mean, that's a story of its own that we could talk about one day. But
wow. No, we'll
yeah.
we'll talk about that story, and we'll talk about Alligator Alcatraz. But you mentioned something about Trump to understand Trump, and you're absolutely on point because the reporting shows it. Is that folks? He decided to abandon his America First position, and then unilaterally decided to join Israel in the strike because, according to New York Times reporting, he saw how it played on Fox. And he said, "Oh, it's playing well." And some folks, I'm assuming it was probably Rubio and Hegseth, they weren't named, were secretly hoping that Tucker Carlson was still on Fox so Donald Trump could get an alternative view. But because Fox were going all in with propaganda, Donald Trump went on vibes and he thought it would play well for him to strike, which is why he did it. And also because the one issue that was his strong point, but now he's underwater and it's still his strongest point as immigration, because of that one issue and it plays strong, immigration, alligator Alcatraz.
Oh, this is going to be such an inhumane situation. I can't even explain to me. First of all, somebody that's been in prison, in regular prison, that's inhumane to begin with. That's something that we could talk about separately, that the prison system here has to be reformed. But this is something that literally is a tent city that's built in the middle of the swamps during hurricane season, mind it. They just had, where they had the press conference, it's already flooded. And we just had a little regular Florida rain here. I can't imagine what I mean. And they already have put, I think, over 300 undocumented immigrants in there. And again, they're trying to call them criminals, but the whole thing is these people do not have due process rights. They're being picked up off the streets, thrown into basically a concentration camp, and it's a mishmash. Yes, you might have some hardcore criminals. Agreed. Get rid of them, but still, don't take away the due process. Don't take away You're putting American citizens. They're taking American citizens off the street, is screaming, yelling, "I'm an American citizen," and you got masked guys with no badges, just basically saying, "I don't care. Let's go, throw you in the thing." It's crazy. Well, I mean,
Speaking about that, everyone, not just citizens, everyone has the right to due process in the United States of America. There's also writ to habeas corpus, which they want to eliminate, right? Because they say that we're in wartime. And as Lev was saying, they're saying there's undocumented people, but we don't know. There could be legal immigrants. The people who were boarded on that plane to El Salvador, 90% of them didn't have any criminal backgrounds. We know that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is here legally. We also know that ICE has actually deported at least 70 citizens, including kids, including a girl who had undocumented parents who's a cancer survivor, and another girl who's going through stage 4 cancer, right? So this is wanton terror unleashed by Donald Trump vis-a-vis his ICE. It's like the modern Gestapo. And Ron DeSantis, I'm old enough to remember when Donald Trump was mocking and ridiculing Ron DeSantis. And here we saw this week, within 8 days, Lev, our government that doesn't have the ability to create schools or to help create infrastructure, right, or to help people with an affordable healthcare. In 8 days, they created this concentration camp in Florida. And I'm so glad you mentioned it's within the pathway of a hurricane, right? It's hurricane season's coming, right? So if the hurricane doesn't get these people who are there innocent without due process, the alligators will. I mean, just think about it. 8 days they got this done, and he goes there, and then he buddy buddies Ron DeSantis because they realize they're losing on everything else, but the base still loves the cruelty and the immigration. So talk to us if you can about what Ron DeSantis's and Florida's play is here with this concentration camp.
Well, it's like all the rest of them. I mean, when you're around Donald Trump, you want to be more extreme than the next guy. You want to go out more on the limb than the next guy. You want to show your loyalty more than the next. You want to go to a further step than the next guy. And if you take a look, that's why you're seeing such extreme actions, and that's why you see. I mean, you also have to understand. DeSantis has another play right now. Why he's kissing up to Donald Trump? He wants his wife to run for governor. And Trump put out recommended Donaldson, congressman out of Florida. So there's a lot of going and back and forth. So DeSantis knows how to play the game, because if you remember when he even just first started supporting Trump, he came out with commercials reading Trump books and baby stories, and I mean he went full in for Trump in his first what's it called. So right now this is more strategical play. Because if you remember, just not too long ago, DeSantis, they were arguing about DeSantis was going to allow them to. He was pissed off that DeSantis allowed them to raid Mar-a-Lago. All of a sudden, he's now forgotten about that, and he's okay with that, to move forward. He said they have a 9.9 out of a 10 relationship going on, but it's all with them. It's all about.
All transactional.
It's all You just took the word out of my mouth. It's all transactional with each and every one of it. Just like I said, DeSantis, when I met him, the first relationship was transactional. Hey, I'll give you your cannabis, that you want in your state. You give me the governor's seat. Give me Donald Trump type of stuff. It's
So
all
DeSantis came to you. So DeSantis came to you, said, "You give me access to Donald Trump. I need Donald Trump's backing to become governor." And you said, "Okay, I'll make that arrangement and vouch for you, but now you got to go pro cannabis in Florida."
Exactly. It's in my book. It was in the documentary. Absolutely, 100%. And there's a lot of it in there. I mean, that is going on that they don't want to talk about, and they try hide, because one of the things that Donald Trump tactic that he's used with me, if you notice, I'm the only person that they don't respond to. Not DeSantis, none of them. I'm the only person, because if they respond to me, the story gets bigger. Then they have to go big to. But if they don't respond and move the news cycle and just pretend it never happened, it's a one-time press release, big time, and then it goes on and change the news cycle, moves on.
And folks are saying that the bill just passed. Folks, this bill is disastrous. It's the billionaire bill. It permanently it ensconces the tax cuts for the 1% at the expense of the many. It adds $3.3 trillion to the debt. At least 17 million people will be kicked off of healthcare because it's $1 trillion cut to Medicaid. How will they pay for the tax cuts? Through Medicaid. And it's not just the people. Once you take $1 trillion out of Medicaid, it's a system-wide ripple effect, right?
Medicaid,
So
SNAP.
immense damage. SNAP, rural hospitals, nursing homes. People won't have access to healthcare. People will go to emergency rooms. Hospitals will have to treat them. Hospitals will have to take on the debt. Our infrastructure will already be more stressed. As a result, who's going to pay off this debt? Moody's has already downrated the U.S. credit rating. U.S. will continue to be seen like a shithole. People won't invest in us. Already, people aren't traveling to America. We've lost $12 billion in revenue within 6 months, Lev. What's so painful is that we are being destroyed by the dumbest people on earth, the most corrupt people on earth. And it's only in 6 months. And it didn't have to be this way, Lev. It didn't have to be this way. And since you know these people, I want you, because no one listens to me. Who am I? I'm just a crazy brown man. But you know these people, and they might listen to you. Map out the next 6 months, especially as they pass this bill. They got their tax cuts. They're good. Folks, the first Trump administration, I want to bring some receipts. If you remember, Lindsey Graham said, "Our donors have told us not to come back until you pass this tax cut." That's what Lindsey Graham said. They passed the tax cuts, and now they made it permanent. So they've done their job. As far as Republicans are concerned, they've done their job. Hello?
Oh, you
That-
froze a little bit. There you go.
Can you see me now? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't know if you heard me because you all froze and it was probably my mistake. But I said Lindsey Graham openly said that the donors said don't come back until you pass the tax cuts in the first Trump administration, right? They already did it. So as far as I'm concerned, they've done their job. But they've given $175 billion to ICE. And now you have Donald Trump unleashed. Map out the next 6 months, or rather, Lev, map out what we're going to see until 2026.
Well, this is the scary part. I think the next big play that what I'm hearing inside of Donald Trump circles that the whole concentration is going to be called election reform. Election reform means basically they're going to, and that's part of what we're seeing also, you got to keep in mind, for you guys to really understand what the next moves and what played out, very easily, go read Project 2025 because that's the manual and the handbook that's been wrote by Russell Vaught, Smith, Stephen Miller, excuse me, that are the real architects behind of what goes next. And right now, the next step, and that's why Joy was, when she said that, I was hitting the 100% because they're not concerned. They're not concerned. That's what scares me. That's why when I go on my Substack, knowing them the way I know them, because I know Donald Trump, he watches the polls, he watches the reactions, and this big ugly bill, whatever you want to call it, even his own mega base is cracking. He's a whole mega base, even the way he's acting between the Israel, the Middle East conflict, his mega base is cracking. The way he's doing what he's doing with Ukraine and Russia, his mega base is cracking. His trips to Qatar, taking planes, his mega base is cracking. I mean, you have major ruptures between Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson. These are some major players. Steve Bannon's going back and forth between attacking one. I mean, they're all at each other. And this is the stuff you see. The stuff you don't see is a lot crazier because, like, I mean, Trump is going to go after Musk. He's already given orders. They're
Yep.
looking into how to have Doge go after, see where they could, like, literally make him the fall guy for anything that, that happened with Doge and track him out. So, the scary part is their next plan, because, like you said, they already got their bill accomplished. Besides, the chaos that's going to be unfolding in Europe with Russia, Ukraine, because that war is nowhere near to be stopping. It's only going to escalate and continue. The Middle East is just a volcano, as I say, that is just on the verge of erupting. It's like a Band-Aid, but on a wet surface that is literally hanging by a thread that any day we could wake up and say, here we are, we're right back at it. And Trump's going to blame somebody else, because he's going to say everything he did was perfect. It was not his fault why it started. He was the only one that was able to do it. So that's where I see and why I say right now, and I tell everybody right now, most important thing is we need to unite. And it doesn't matter about policies. It doesn't matter if me and you could agree on policy or agree on one certain issue or not. We all of us should agree on one thing, that we want to save our democracy, that we want to get back to where we can debate policy, when we can talk about one side, because right now it's not. We're getting closer and closer into that. I hate to say it and I hate to compare it, but if you take a look, I mean, we get closer into that, Hitler-like situation where we're being, and it's getting scary and scary, because the one thing that most people don't understand, that they still say to themselves, and just think to yourself how many times you've said it. Oh, that's not going to happen. Oh, they can't possibly let him happen. Oh, he's just talking. He's not going to do it. Just think about how many times you said that, and and look where we are today. We are where we have no rights, folks. They've done away with our due process. We got American citizens. I'm going to go fast forward. American citizens being taken off the street and being deported, thrown with no due process. They want to do away with our rights. They're defying the Constitution. Look at what just killed Garcia. I mean, he was tortured. Again, we're not here to decide if he is MS-13, it's irrelevant. He has a due process. That's what makes America great. That's what makes us different than Russia and other places, is because even if you're a criminal, even if you're not, you're a human being first. And as a human
Everyone
being,
gets
you
due
have humane
process.
rights. What? I'm sorry.
Everyone gets due process. Everyone.
That's right.
And folks aren't realizing what I've said for a while. And what Lev has said is, at the end of the day, fascists come for everyone. So the first they went after the transgender, then they went after pro-Palestinian students, then they went after universities, then they went after undocumented, then they went after Kilmar Abrego Garcia, illegal immigrants. Now they're going after LA. Now he's openly saying he is going to strip citizenship of U.S. citizens that he doesn't like. With a dictator like that has been given expansive power by the corrupt Supreme Court, where the House Republicans are his servants and slaves, where you have the Senate and you have the media folks, what do you think is going to happen next? And I agree with you and Joy. I think the play here is they know they're going to lose in the 2026 midterms because everything's going to get worse. They're going to do election interference, misinformation, and or desperate times. If they feel like that's not enough, he's going to declare martial law. He's going to unleash his own army, which is ICE. It's going to be an army, has a budget bigger than most foreign armies now as a result of this bill.
Not only that,
And
but did you hear? Well, here they're recruiting January 6th partners. Yesterday, he pardoned the guy from January 6th that they pardoned that threatened police officers is now officially part of the ICE committee. I don't know what the exact role is, but yeah,
Gestapo,
they're
man. It's
Proud
Gestapo.
Boys, all of that.
Jackbooted thugs. So the way we fight back is the majority. The majority has to be informed. The majority has to be passionate. The majority has to unite. The majority has to put pressure on their elected officials, the Democrats, to fight back. Folks, it works. In LA, like I said before, the majority, grassroots, forced the LA Dodgers to kick out ICE. The majority is uniting and forced the LA Dodgers to give $1 million to immigrant rights. So the majority is stepping up and protecting each other. The majority tried to put attention on Mahmoud Khalil and Rameza Osterk, and then it forced the Democrats to go visit them, right? And that's why they got released. You have to keep the focus. Corporate media has failed us. Our establishments have failed us. Our institutions have failed us. It's up to the people. And it's up to all of you watching right now. I thank you all for watching. I got to go for a 2:45. Lev, do me a favor. I don't have your contact. I'll message you on Substack because I think I can message you. Give me your contact. Let's talk to each other. We'll bring each other on. For those who have joined us late, I had Joy Reid on about an hour ago. Then Lev joined on. The full conversation will be up in an hour or two with the transcript. This is the Left Hook Substack. If you haven't ever subscribed, please subscribe. Like a fool, I have no paywalls. I've kept everything for free because I believe a citizenry should be informed during the fight for democracy against fascism. If you have some money, please give a few bucks. I got a couple of kids. I depend on the kindness of strangers. Lev, before I let you go, quickly promote yourself.
Thank you so much. I mean, right here, we're all on the same team. Number one thing is we need to unite, get our message straight. So please, if you haven't subscribed, I'm here. This is my home, Substack. My son, Aaron, brought me here, and I've been here 2 months, and I love it. You guys are great. So please subscribe. Subscribe to all the independent journalists because, like what he said, the legacy media, there is no more. There is no media. We are the last line of defense. And trust me when I tell you, I'm hearing it. I keep talking about he's going to make a play for us also. He's going to come for the Substacks and the independent. He's already talking about it's just a matter of time and it's going to come closer. So the bigger we are, the more we are united together, the harder it is going to make him to be able to get rid of our voices. So right now we need to unite. We need to make sure our voices are heard loud and clear because we are all are human beings first. And then we talk about party and everything else.
Folks, enjoy your July 4th. Try your best to celebrate. Try your best to heal and rest. We need joyful warriors for the long walk ahead. It's going to be a long generational fight. Be empathetic, be kind, take care of yourselves. And please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Lev, have a good July 4th.
You
Message
too.
me or vice versa. Let's connect.
Yes,
Take care, everyone.
Take care.